Graphene Manufacturing Group is a developer of a proprietary graphene production system and is developing and producing graphene-based thermal management, energy savings, and energy storage solutions. We've got CEO Craig Nichol here joining us to give us an overview of the company and answer my questions as well as audience questions. My name is Martin Gago with Market Radius Research. Please remember this is neither recommendation nor investment advice. We're just here to learn about the company. Craig, welcome and thank you for joining us. I guess it's early morning for you today.
Thanks, Martin. Yeah, it's great to be back on and great to join us.
All right. I hope you had a good winter. Did I get the
Yeah,
seasons right?
that's right. We're just coming back into spring, so opposite to you guys. But yes, it's been a good one.
Excellent. Glad to hear that. Why don't we'll start off with you giving a quick overview presentation just to bring everyone up to speed, and then we'll get into some interview and some Q&A. So please take it away.
Great, thanks, Martin. So GMG is now a 9-year-old company. We're an Australian company listed on the Toronto Stock Exchange and also the OTCQX markets. I'll first, of course, normal disclaimer for forward-looking statements for high-growth companies like us as ourselves. Our board is an Australian-American board intentionally because we see ourselves as an Australian-American company. We've made this move some years ago and we continue to move in that direction. Currently, all our operations are in Australia. We expect to have American operations on the next phase of the company as we grow through its commercial phase. We have 4 products that we make from our graphene. One is our Thermal XR heat exchange coating system. Another one is our lubricant additive. Third one is our graphene aluminium-ion battery, which we're developing with Rio Tinto, University of Queensland, and the Battery Innovation Centre of Indiana. And then our fourth is our additive for graphene, or graphene slurry additive for lithium-ion batteries. All of these products are focused on the energy transition on both sides. So we both save energy through the application of products like our coatings, which move heat faster, stop corrosion. We also save fuel with our graphene additive for lubricant engine oils, and I'll be able to move heat out of batteries with our graphene slurry for lithium-ion batteries. But we also focused on the other side of the transition, which is the battery storage, with our very fast charging next generation aluminium-ion battery. What is graphene? It's a carbon powder, basically. It's a black powder. Doesn't look too special when you see it. It's only been around 20 years or so, Nobel Prize for people who actually identified it. It does many things, and there are many different types of graphenes, and it's best to understand graphene as a group of products, not just one product. We specialize our graphene and we manufacture a graphene focused on ion storage, thermal conductivity with moving heat, and enhanced lubrication. So ion storage is all about storing ions. So it's not electrically conductive. We're not focused on that. We're focused on actually storing the ions for batteries. A very different technical term, but it's very important that this is the area that we've focused our graphene on. This is where we found our graphene works best, and also for the applications we work on. Many other graphenes in the world, and there always will be, and they do all sorts of other amazing things. This is what we do. We make graphene from a natural gas, obviously at low cost with methane. We basically sequester the carbon from the natural gas into the graphene, and then we have hydrogen as a byproduct. We've had it verified by a number of universities many years ago. We don't focus on selling our graphene, although we do get approached to sell it. We do sell it occasionally. Really, our focus is to develop our batteries because graphene and our other products, graphene is a very difficult material to make. The better the graphene is, the more difficult it is to use. That's the oxymoron about graphene. The more difficult it is actually to use, that means the less people can actually use it, the better people can do with it, but there's less people who can actually do with it. That's the conundrum with graphene, and that is the real issue with graphene marketing, I guess, and commercialization. The other graphene production processes generally take from mined graphite, and that's where you take the graphite and you split it out with acid washing and various different processes, therefore, afterwards to create this thing called graphene oxide. It is fundamentally a different product. It's the fact that they've got the same words almost makes you think that's about the only thing that's similar. There's oxygen in them, there's all the other different types of impurities, but they have a very different purpose and they do very different things. And I think that's really important, that each graphene is very different. And even graphene, we can produce a number of different graphenes that do fundamentally different things in our own equipment, just with different settings. And therefore you can do them and do different things with them as products. This is a bit of an overview of our operations. We have our phase 1 operational project with a graphene plant that's already been operating. We have our heat exchange coating blend plant, which is about 1 million litres per year. We have a lubricant blending plant that's up and running. We can also make a substantial amount of volume there as well. We also then have a graphene slurry plant that's a pilot plant that's going well. And then we have a battery development center where we make batteries every day. So pretty much we operate this every day, all of these plants with one production team. And then a bunch of obviously battery science and engineers doing the battery development work. And this is what we are building into a scalable commercial organization right now. That's our chief focus. We have our headquarters in Richlands, Brisbane, Australia. We about 3,500 square meters, office and warehouse. We have all of our facilities there. We have also already approved the investment, and we're now in the early phases of construction design for our modular Gen 2 graphene production plant, which is a new technology. Total capex expected to be around 2.3 million, which will be about 10 tonne per annum, with off-grid capacity, enabling, I guess, the next generation of graphene production for us. Then we also have all our blending plants, battery development centers, and QA/QC labs on this site, including all our offices. We recently launched a G lubricant product. We are now selling this both as on our website, g-lubricant.com, as well as on Amazon, and we're selling it around the world. It has approvals to be used all around the world, R&D for America, but we need to, the only country that we can't sell bulk fluid yet is America for this. We need an EPA for this, but we are doing R&D work there. Its active focus is to reduce fuel burn, to reduce friction. 10% fuel consumption reduction is generally what we see. We've done a number of tests now where we actually get above that. We've even got customers coming back saying they're close to 30% fuel savings. It's a 1 in 100 solution. So in 5 litres of oil, you only use 50 mil, which is that tiny little bottle there, which is a very small amount. And that has only got 1 in 100 of graphene in the oil. So in the end, you're only putting in graphene into 1 in 10,000. And then you say, how can that work? Well, that's what the graphene's doing. It's because it's so high purity. It's doing its work at such low percentages. Therefore, you know, that's the wonder of graphene coming through. But it's taken 8 years to get here, an enormous amount of development, testing, and customer conversations to enable this. And that's the result. So we also have our Super G graphene lithium-ion battery slurry additive. Now, this is being tested by one of the leading universities in the world in the UK, showing a 2.5% less resistance in a battery when putting into a lithium-ion battery. This is being tested by a number of large battery companies around the world. After we were in Forbes after our press release. This is currently being tested in the BIC as well in Indiana, and we'll aim to come out with some very clear data on what it does. But basically, it enables lithium-ion batteries to be charged faster, enables them to be safer, and enables them to have more rate tolerance, which enables lithium-ion batteries to be able to be kind of change the rates from very fast to slow charging, which lithium-ion batteries typically don't like. and then obviously it gives you higher, longer sustained performance for the battery. So very small percentage of 1% in the cathode. So we're just shortly coming out with data on this. But this is another one of our products that we just launched this year. Thermal XR is definitely the most developed product. We've been marketing and working with this product for 4 years, but its applications are almost endless. Basically anything over 35 degrees Celsius or say 60 degrees Fahrenheit can be or should have this type of coating on it. It's at bulk pricing that you could do that, say that that's economic. It moves heat basically twice as fast than without it. It also stops corrosion. So it's used in air conditioners, on the condenser coils, industrial plants like LNG plants, heat sinks for electronics, data centers, and refrigeration. We've got case studies from all over the world. And now we're one of the very few products in the world which actually has a Singapore Green Building Product Award, which is a good rating, which is a 10% energy saving rating. We also had a number of prizes last year, from including the Product of the Year award for the Australian air conditioning industry and the Data Center Award in Washington, DC. The conversations with this space is generally in large OEMs who are testing and working with us on many fronts, on many different types of applications. We basically get many products sent to us, we code it and we send it back, all at the same time as we're doing projects as well as setting up distribution systems around the world for this coating to be coated on basically all and everything that moves heat. This is just a very detailed, very high level point. We move heat through thermal radiation. There are many other things that are going on with the coating, but this is one of the elements. And then this thermal radiation paint on basically with the coating with very thin application of only 5 micron. It enables that heat to be moving through what's called thermal radiation, which is a little unused. Third type of heat transfer, typically being used forced convection. Forced convection typically only gets about 8 to 15, 16 watts per meter squared Kelvin at 2 meters per second. So what we're saying is our coating does about 1 meter per second of airflow equivalent, which is really quite something. And it means that you don't need your air conditioner on all the time because we substitute that out for the fan. Here's performance charts. We're now at 20,000 hours actually for salt sea spray testing, which is it's one of the very few in that top echelon of anti-corrosion coatings in the world. That's ticking on. We'll probably get 25,000 hours shortly. So I think it'll be in the top 2 then. As I said, we got the Product of the Year award for the air conditioning industry. We are also waiting on the EPA approval for bulk fluid sale through our partner of Nichol, who is one of the largest distributors of air conditioning fluids in America, with 4,000 distribution points, also in Canada, Mexico, and the Central America and Caribbean. We have a number of projects going on with them already in R&D testing. And the EPA, we are expecting that to be approved in December this year. We've been holding that line for some time, and it is a full, what would be called a full uncapped, unlimited approval, we expect. We still need to see how that comes in the end. And then that will enable us to ship immediately. And then New Calgon is in the process of already stepping up its marketing across their areas for this. This is a partnership that's taken a number of years to pull together, and it's enabling us to provide top-level technology to basically one of the top companies in the biggest market of air conditioning coatings, which is America by far. We are working with a number of companies now with the graphene aluminium-ion battery. It has many advantages. Its biggest advantage is its fast charging development capabilities, up to 60 times faster charging. It has a very long life as well. We're looking at economic energy density at high charging speeds. That's the most important thing. We're not trying to get the lightest battery in the world. We're trying to get the fastest charging battery in the world, because companies like Rio Tinto, our development partner, need it to be as fast charging as uh, diesel fuel, and diesel fuel takes about 4 or 5 minutes in a big truck. So if you've got to take half an hour, which is what a lithium-ion battery takes right now, that's just not good enough. They could potentially have to double their fleet if they need to go to a lithium-ion battery. So ours is intentionally focused on what's called 10C charging, which is very few batteries in the world can do, all reliably and low cost, and that's what our focus is on. There's a lot of science behind that, but basically we're a battery technology readiness level 4. We're using the BIC to scale. We hope to scale with them through to battery technology readiness levels 8, and we aim to be in level 9, which is full-scale manufacturing in 2 years' time. So here's some charts just talking about what it does. It's a very simple, robust battery. So we make these every day. We're very focused on now bringing everything we've learned over the last 2 years and the last 4 years, but the last detailed 2 years in the pouch cell world, and bring that together so we can meet our timelines. There's a number of steps we've already taken. What we're now working through is this next phase of, once we've completed the iteration, we'll be in optimization. We'll be going into pouch cell testing at bulk levels. Every day we do all of these different testing facilities that focus. This is an enormous amount of detailed work that you've got 10 different optimizing parameters, and that enables us to really understand the depth of the battery and how we can make it work. But this is the detail of what, this is how you bring a new battery technology to the market. As I said, we're aiming to push to full-scale production in 2027. We've had, obviously, some movement in this space with our finances space after just completing a deal recently on market with Red Cloud. And we are still, main focus is to build revenue in our products. We'll be announcing shortly a range of initiatives in this space. We'll also be doing a range of other development projects, which we'll be able to talk through shortly. And the main area that we're working on in total is to work through becoming a commercial operation. So all the technology has been done. We still have a bit to work on the battery technology, but all the products, the graphene production, we are a full upstream, downstream company that is focused on delivering solutions that people want to give their hard cold cash away to get and receive. That probably is a good way to end it there, Martin, and maybe back to you.
All right, Craig, thank you. That was a great quick overview. Appreciate that. Again, from the audience, where we've gotten several questions here already, which I appreciate. I'm going to hog the puck, so to speak, since it's my show. I'll ask my questions first. And one thing I find it personally fascinating, like you're talking, there are many different types of graphene, and I always like just to think about, like, graphene is made out of carbon, and so are diamonds, and so is coal, and they're very different, and it's just all about the structure and maybe some other molecules in there, and so it's just fascinating how different shape, like gold is gold, whatever you melt it, you pour it, but carbon is just radically different there.
It's radically different, yeah, and the structure is everything, and you can fundamentally change. Even with our own equipment, we can fundamentally do different things with our products. And you just wouldn't be able to see it at the human eye level. You need to, and you wouldn't even be able to see it otherwise unless you really test it and push it. So a lot of our work is actually developing testing equipment to test what is the graphene capable of doing, because it's not you're not able to know unless you test it. So we've had probably 6, 7 generation level testing equipment internally developed to be able to test each of our products. And that's actually one of the hardest things to do, is to develop a test to work out, is the product going to do what you say it is in bulk applications?
You said that you sell a little bit of your graphene itself, bulk to
Mm,
end users.
mm.
Why did you choose the strategy of developing your own sort of value-added products as opposed to selling it and maybe co-developing it, or just letting other people develop products with your graphene and just keeping, I don't know, your business model much simpler where you don't have to figure out marketing plans for lubricants and so forth. Let a big oil company figure that out and you'll just supply the graphene.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're basically involved with confidentially every large type of company you could possibly know or think about in there's verticals that we're working with. So we're working with those guys. They don't want graphene. They don't know how to use graphene. We have literally been in their laboratories all over the world and taught them how to do it. And they just look at us and they go, I don't know how you do that. And I know that doesn't sound right, but that's just the fact. That's just, they don't know how to use graphene. We've, we've been working with the biggest companies in the world for some time, and they just can't use the powder. It is a really difficult thing for them to get around. Um, Even when we give them a liquid product, um, is difficult for them to completely comply with everything because we ask them to do things which are often sometimes really counterintuitive to make it work, but we know it works. And then sometimes they just don't want to do that and they'll get it wrong. And also you need to go back to what we asked you to do. This is the procedure, and then you get it done. And this is how it works. And they go, oh, okay. And so that's why, right? So you graphene is a very difficult product to understand. It's a very difficult product to mix. And
It's not just like sprinkling salt in
no,
your tomato
no,
sauce and
no,
stirring it up a
it
bit.
is unbelievably difficult thing to work with. And we've just been doing it for so long that, and we put it into so many things that we can do it like breathing now. And we have standard operating procedures. And we literally have people working in our plant that used to work for Coca-Cola, and they come and mix graphene into it, and we just tell them as though we do it, and they do it, and they make a great product. So I think there was a really critical moment where it was kind of around 2019 where the we had one of the best compounding companies in the world. So the compounding companies are people who put things into plastic. So they're people who know how to put composite materials like powder into plastic. And we sent our graphene to them, and they said, how do you expect us to do with it? It's too fluffy. They don't know how to work with it. So this is maybe 1 in 100 companies in the world with that skill in the world. So we realized if 1 in 100 companies, so 100, the top 100 companies couldn't work out how to use our graphene, what were the millions of other companies going to use with that? Yeah, how could they actually use our graphene? So now we've turned what is effectively 100 companies who might have been able to use it into millions of companies. Every company in the world can buy our products and use them. It's just ready-made. Don't need any nanotechnology knowledge. Apply them. They're safe, and you get the outcome. You don't need to understand quantum physics to be able to track their performance and be able to get them into their use of their business. So that's the fundamental. We didn't go and say we wanted to make oil. I mean, I've made oil for many years as marketing manager for Shell Australia. I didn't want to go do that again, but you end up realizing that you've got to take it all the way to the end for someone to buy something, and you've even got to put it in their hand and put it in the right language, and then they'll buy it. And then maybe then you've got a really good chance of making it happen. If you don't do that, people find all these reasons why it just doesn't work.
Just curious, it's not that relevant, but when it comes out of the machine, like you said, it was fluffy. Is it like just a
Yeah.
super fine dust that you blow on it and you get a little cloud of it? going
You,
on, or?
it's not like any other powder you've seen before. It's kind of like fairy floss, or like what's the thing you have in American, like fairy floss? It's the opposite, the
Oh,
candy.
candy
Yeah,
floss? Okay.
yeah, yeah. It's like that. It's like fluffy, but if you open the bag, it disappears in front of your eyes because it's so
Okay.
small.
Yeah.
And it's light, it's very light. Gravity doesn't generally work on it. It's 20 times lighter than water in bulk densities. That's where it's packed and you compressed it.
Yeah.
It's impossible to get into batteries. Absolutely impossible. One of the really big milestones in my mind is 9 years of development is seeing one of the largest battery companies in the world, one of the largest companies in the world, come through our plant and see how we put graphene into a battery every day, 100%. So this is just 100% graphene and some water. That's all we use to put it into our aluminium-ion battery, and a tiny bit of binder, but that's it. And the guy was in charge of batteries globally for them, and he just like this, he just couldn't believe it. And then because they've never, well, they typically might get 1% graphene into something, right? You don't get 100%, but that's because we have been working with graphene and making graphene only things. And honestly, we were never told that it was impossible. So we just kept on doing it and now we do it every day. So we do things with batteries with graphene that basically even the biggest companies in the world can't do. And we get on calls and we talk to them through it, and they go, I don't really understand that. How can you do that with graphene? You're saying, they actually say, you're talking about graphite, right? We said, no, we're talking graphene. This is a graphene cathode, 100% graphene cathode. And then it's kind of a bit of a gog, and they think there's something lost in translation. And then we go, no, it is graphene, because they can't do what we do. So that's why we do what we do, is because we need to do it for them, And I wish that it wasn't the case, but it is what it is, When you think about who is the largest nanomaterial producer in the world, just if you ask that question,
I don't. No one comes to mind,
it's
actually.
it's Intel,
Oh,
right?
all right. Or maybe TSMC, or?
Yeah, or TSMC. Those
Yeah.
guys, that they don't make silicon nanomaterial and then provide it to someone. No, they make it into a chip. So
Yeah.
you don't make nanomaterials and bulk sell them easily. I mean, you might be able to, but that's not a big general market. You don't generally get that to go happen. You need to go all the way through and create an outcome or a product that's using the material that you know how to work with. And that's why we've done it. I mean, it's a long answer, but it's a very important one because it really differentiates us from pretty much every other graphene company out there. Because graphene, as a material, it will change the world. It will be the next material that will change the world, like silicon changed us. And it's the reason why we're talking right now, is because there's a nanomaterial called silicon. We can talk on our phones, and that's the only reason. Well, graphene will be that way, but none of us will see it, and it'll be everywhere, but it'll be impregnated into everything. And the only companies that are going to make that happen are the people who put it into the plastic, put it into the things that make it work. And that's not easy. That's really difficult. And you're going to need to master the material for it to happen. So, we see how silicon industry has taken off over 60, 70 years or whatever. That is how we think graphene industry will take off, is that you need to be in the end applications to really know how to make it all come through.
All right. You just raised $6.9 million after initially, I guess, wanting to raise five, I believe it was. It was upsized, so good demand there for that. Just broadly, could you just talk about your use of proceeds and how much runway does that give you?
Yeah, I think, runway is interesting when you're building, right? It's like
Yeah.
interesting, but we're also going to be, really pushing hard, right? We're going into this commercial phase and we've got lots of activities. There's lots of stuff going on. It's really fascinating time of our journey. So, it's probably over 2 years, I think, runway. We're generally burning, 500 grand or so Australian dollars, so 300 grand US a month. And so that kind of rolls out. So the next phase though is all around building stock to sell, and we'll be coming out shortly with a new product catalog, which we've been very, very busy. We've actually been busier than we've ever been in 9 years. And I know that probably isn't seen by most shareholders or seen by shareholders, because when you're busy, you're often doing stuff and you're not announcing it. But that's what we're about to announce. So we're just about to announce a product catalog so we can actually sell palletized graphene fluids in bulk globally in multi-language. So a lot of that money is going to go straight into producing bulk or palletized products. That then,
So working capital, build up inventory, and
yeah,
then so you can start selling it. All right.
That's right. Yeah, that's the main focus. And it's a big moment for the company. We previously have obviously stock with graphene, a whole bunch of things that need to happen when you're in a kind of a palletized type outcome. And so that's really the main focus. There's obviously increase in sales, sales teams as well, expenditure, and then we're at some point we hope to, or we aim to uplist in America as well.
All right. I would like to I've got some questions here on each of your 4 product lines, and just go through them quickly before we get to audience questions here. So for the Thermal XR, you're expecting EPA approval in December. Am I correct on that?
That's correct, yeah.
All right. And the business model is you sell it in a liquid, it gets sprayed as an aftermarket. As an aftermarket, are you targeting sort of OEM where it's manufactured with this sprayed on it, so it's not just an aftermarket process as well?
Yeah, so your aftermarket is your new Calgon type applications, but also a lot of air conditioners these days, especially in America, are sprayed before installed. So they're sprayed on site, or they might be sprayed in the factory before they're actually installed. And
Would that be currently with a corrosion, anti-corrosion, or is it another thermal transfer type thing?
No, there's basically no other coating that does what we do. And there are anti-corrosion coatings out there, and they're about the same price as what we ask for our coating, except ours is transferring heat as well. So, so whilst it's an aftermarket, it's also brand new installs as well. It's kind of interesting. So in the new install and also the aftermarket installed base, the install base is about $20 billion opportunity globally for the coating, and each year manufacturers is about $1 billion for the coating. The competition, as I said, is largely kind of the anti-corrosion coating. We tend to actually do better than them in the anti-corrosion space as well. So we offer a lot of benefits on top of what they do, and we already make what they actually provide. So we've got a very strong offering. The work in EPA is to basically supply bulk to New Calgon, and then New Calgon then will be distributing through their distribution centers a packaged product. So it'll be a dual branded New Calgon powered by GMG Graphene. So which is our go-to, which is very similar to the Intel Inside type approach, which we were talking about before. So our go-to dual branding strategy it's the first of the big ones that we expect to roll out.
All right. Is there an opportunity just in like the smaller home residential air conditioning units as well? Because those aren't sprayed kind of aftermarket. Those I would think need to be sprayed in the factory.
So interesting, Martin. We've got we'll be announcing shortly a product for that particular market, and I think we'll find that market could be quite attractive and quite quite a big market for us. But so we'll be announcing that shortly. We've got a product that's basically finished its development, and now we're into production for the small residential market, and also just for the burgeoning kind of do-it-yourself who wanted to use graphene coatings to stop corrosion on anything from boats to the side, applications. That'll be one of the palletized products that we'll be coming out with shortly.
The Thermal XR, that is your first product, and that's been in market for a while. No offense, but
Yeah,
like sales haven't been through the roof on that. Is that just
no,
it's a complicated supply chain getting in and
yeah,
proving yourself? Like, do
yeah,
you see 2026 as being a real breakout year, or what's been happening over the last couple of years since this has been launched and to gain
yeah,
traction?
yeah. So it's an evolving kind of story. That it's you don't really fully launch the product until it's fully launched. So we had the product out there, and we're doing a lot of work all over the world in doing projects, and we do large refrigeration projects. We're talking the sizes of houses, these large chillers for large supermarkets, and data center projects and LNG projects, small ones, and you get the experience from that, and you get the I guess the early adopters who want to come on and do the work, and you get the testing data, and then the more and more data you get, and last year we got Product of the Year award in a number of different places, as I said. So it kind of builds momentum, and you can start to see the shift already. We're starting to get specified in building codes, so that's a really awesome thing. I saw my first one the other day where it said uses GMG thermal XR on this air conditioning project. When that starts you need the mechanical engineers to specify to the builders, to specify to the mechanical contractors, and then meanwhile the owner is in some way saying maybe he cares or he doesn't. So all of those different channels you've got to influence. But the biggest market by far is the American market. It coats an enormous amount of air conditioners every year. And that's why we're heavily focused on the EPA and our work with New Calgon. So yeah, the work is also focused on the EPA. Sorry, the number of OEMs globally. We've had any number of OEMs reach out, and they continue to reach out in this space and all over the world, and that is very time consuming, extremely time consuming. You're talking about a quantum level product that is bulk scale, ready to go. That yet is kind of still the science for how the OEM sees it is still being trying to be understood. And I think that's one of the that's a lesson of how do you get the market to really understand your product before the market really understands it. And it's just trial and error. It's just getting demo projects to work. We know it works. We've got enormous amount of data on it now. And we'll come out with more and more information on what we've done. But then, as I said, it is also how you get it to the customer. So the packs, the distribution method, the channels are very important here. And we're coming out shortly with our palletized product in this space, and we think that could be the really big thing to really get it there. Also, all of our products will have 14 language labels. It's a real thing to have something in your own language when you're using a technical product. So we've gone to that extent as well. So there's been an enormous amount of work in that space to be able to get it in small consumable packs in the language that people need them all over the world, to really start pushing, those sales.
And I guess it's one of the things where there's a ton of upfront work, but once they make their first purchase and they know how to use it, it just is they just reorder
Yeah,
and need a bit of support, but it's
G
all
lubricant
very
is
front loaded.
yeah, it's very front loaded. G lubricant's a lot easier. People just say, okay, I'll use it, and then go, great, and my engine sounds quieter, it runs smoother, I'll save 10% fuel, awesome, love it. Thermal XR, yeah, how many people know how much their air conditioning bill is the next day after using it? That not many people.
Yeah.
You really need to know a lot of electrical monitoring systems. We put in all that for people, but that's generally a bit beyond what people want to do. So typically they buy it for corrosion resistance, and then they go, oh, actually, I'm seeing an improvement in my energy consumption. So it's just less obvious. But you're right. I think once people start to understand it, it becomes the standard status quo. I think it'll be much harder to unseat, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. What are you able to say what your, say, target gross margin is on this product?
Yeah, look, the gross margins across our products are higher than 50%. And that's just because all the technology that's gone into them makes them easy to make with a low amount of graphene, and we haven't done any bulk scale up cost reductions in any of this yet. This is just straight off the shelf type costings of our fluids and packs, and so there's a lot of margin upside, but already well above 50% is pretty good in my book.
Yeah, that seems very good.
Mm.
I was gonna ask many of the much of what you were saying with the thermal XR, can that be largely applied to the G lubricant as well in terms of scaling up the business and the partnerships and so forth?
Yeah, it's probably a bit easier to understand, but you know how I was saying that graphene's really hard to use and mix? Well, guess what? A lot of these big companies have tried it with other graphenes and it didn't work because they
Yeah.
just didn't know how to do it. I mean, I don't like saying that, but they just didn't know how it was working. So they failed. And it's like, if you throw an iPhone at something and you go, well, that's not a very good cricket ball, or it's not a very good baseball. Well, it's not, it's a phone. It's like you're using it in the wrong way. It's like, so, but how do you say that to a big company? It happens quite often, more than you'd think. And that's what they've got to go through. We've been working with graphene now for 9 years, and we really understand the next level. And even now we're still finding things out. We'll come out shortly with some really amazing results on some air conditioning in a very large infrastructure project we just did, and it was startling. And so, yeah, you've got to get everything you can, present it as easily as possible, get the data, make sure it's all aligned, and keep communicating that, and then getting it to customers as simply as possible, as in their own language, in a pack that they want, through a channel that they like. That's where all this comes down to.
Well, with your G lubricant, I could that would be relevant if you could sell that as it is or in a more concentrated form to a Chevron or a big lubricants company. They
Mm.
could add it in their factory and then sell whatever G lubricant in
Yeah,
inside kind of strategy.
they could.
Have you is that on the roadmap at all, or is that any visibility on that?
Look, we've been chatting to big oil companies ever since we started because we're from big oil and the contacts are pretty strong. And we'll continue to have those conversations and testing of projects and products, and because they're all
Yeah.
trying to work themselves out. They all don't know what the future is. No one knows, how much oil will last. It probably will last a lot longer than people were thinking, but when is it
Yeah.
really going to transition? Um, all of those things are potentials. But if you wanted to really run an API oil, which is a approved engine oil for brand new engines, and push that out through a global oil company, which is what I used to do. That's a 3 to 5 year timeline. So
Yeah.
those conversations, can happen, and then you can work through them, but it's not something that you bet the farm on when you're launching sales globally. Those conversations, also, they need to accept that our product does something that they haven't thought of, which isn't normal. For no turkey votes for Christmas. That there are things that they need to go through to be able to get to the end of that decision making, and to say, because what G lubricant proves is basically every engine is badly lubricated in the world. That's what it proves. And
Right.
it's a really big thing for them to accept that.
Yeah, yeah. I received an email from an audience member, and they asked the G lubricant is very impressive with the data, I guess, that you released
Yeah.
on the friction reduction, but it seems to increase the exhaust emissions in carbon dioxide, NOx, NO, and NOx.
Mm.
I don't, is this correct? And is this a problem, or can you
Yeah.
clarify this?
It's it's no, so it I understand exactly where that's coming from. We publish all the data for our tests so that everyone understands what we do. And so we've done a number of tests, and those, so the NOx, or the nitrogen oxides, which is the biggest part of really an emission type gas that comes out of combustion, and quite harmful. They're often seen to go down by about 20 to 30%. What he's picking up one particular test data which showed an increase, and that was because the engine was being really aggressively pushed in the testing program. So no, the data that we see and we've tested over and over again, the particulate matter goes down about 30%, and the NOx goes down 27, 28% or so. And that just comes from a cleaner, more fuel, more efficient combustion. So yeah, if he refers to another article, it's quite clear that the data shows that we reduce emissions as well as reduce fuel consumption.
You mentioned with the big lubricant companies, and let's say there's a Caterpillar or somewhere, does your additive create any warranty issues on new motors or anything? Or is it certified, or is it approved to be used without causing any warranty issues?
So it should not create any warranty issues. It's got oil and carbon, and that's what you have in your engine all the time.
Yeah.
There's no difference. We're at 0.01%. When you
Yeah.
take your diesel engine oil out, you're at 3% carbon. So, and we use an oil which is a high grade, basically synthetic oil to mix the graphene in. That's all it is. So no, but or could I guarantee that a company that makes equipment uses the fact that you've added an additive in could change their view on your warranty status? I can't guarantee that, but it should not. In fact, there'd be almost no way for them to know that there's an additive put in. So to actually have an additive approved, we basically need to have a fully formulated engine oil. Now we are working with different OEMs and oil companies to see how that can be done. But the turkey's got to vote for Christmas first, to fully commit that that's what we've got to do for their side.
All right. I'm going to move on to the lithium battery additive. What is, like, you're going into other people's batteries, battery companies or any big industrial company are very concerned about, I don't know, explosions, fires afterwards, warranty issues. Like, they do a lot. They're very risk averse on that side, regardless of how much the upside is. If something goes wrong 2 years from now, they got to own that for a long time. So there's tons of testing that goes through it. How long until, like, far through the testing period are they, and how long do you think it could take until you get some approvals for that? And would it roll out in sort of maybe niche applications, get some real world testing, and then sort of scale up to bigger and bigger applications?
Yeah, I think you'll see, it come on board in different ways. You'll see it in niche kind of fast charging B2B applications. But I think what we'll see is the world needs, it's a bit like a chicken and the egg. Like, so I've sat with some of the biggest OEMs in the world, and they say, our customers don't really want fast charging. And I go, no, I'm pretty sure they do. They don't want to sit for 30 minutes to charge their EV. They want to do it in 5 minutes. And actually, even if it was 2 minutes, that'd be better. So there's this definition of what fast charging is needed. And
Yeah.
then there's a customer conversation about you need to do it because currently the tech can't really do it. And then you need then the battery to be charged to a point which can actually require this, and therefore our additive becomes quite helpful. And it's enabling us to also understand how the lithium-ion battery is seen by OEMs. So when we talk to them about our aluminium-ion battery, we can also get that understanding as well. So it's a multi I guess a multi path approach, because what the lithium-ion does is our additive does is it takes it to maybe, just making up some numbers here, but say 2 times faster charging than a normal lithium-ion battery, and our aluminium-ion battery will be double that again. So it's kind of a stepping stage, if that makes sense. That
Yeah.
you can look, your customer wants it faster, and I know you don't want to think that because you don't want to accept that, but that's what the case is. Here, use some additive to get there, and then look, let's talk about the aluminium-ion battery, which will be even faster still, and that's the end game. So that's kind of like a staging game that we work through with OEMs, and it's a long game, that one. But the more success we have with the BIC and our own testing, the easier it is to make those conversations progress.
Yeah. And I guess other applications for quick charging where like the assets involved in moving, like in a mining truck with the ore, or like public transit, you don't want them sitting around or not being able to do the routes, or delivery vans where when they're offloading stuff, you can plug them in and charge them up for the next leg of your journey. You can't afford an hour break to recharge during the day.
Yeah, it's driving. So planes, trains, automobiles, trucks, buses, it's the full gambit. And we've got NDAs with companies who make all of those, and they all want to see our battery come to fruition. So that's what's driving us.
All right. I've hogged the mic here a lot. We've got numerous questions here. I'm gonna read them up from the top. They're probably not going to be in order of topic. So we'll jump around a bit. The day you get EPA approval, is logistics set in place for the same day to begin selling?
Yes, they'll be shipped on a plane.
All right.
Hopefully the same day. Probably not. Probably the next day. But yeah.
All right. What is the percentage of graphene in the thermal XR coating? How will new Calgon be selling the thermal XR as kits or as, let's say, a service?
Yeah, it's 2%, and then up to 2%. And then they'll generally be doing small packs, so gallon packs and quarts. And then they'll be rolling that out through their distributors. So they're a master distributor. We really don't have that type of level of distributor in anywhere else in the world. Only in America you have that kind of market size where you have a distributor to a distributor who then distributes to the reseller. So that's their focus. Yeah.
All right. Is the final meeting with the EPA scheduled, and when is it? It was mentioned that there was one more required before moving forward.
Yeah, not scheduled as such. We do meet with them, with our consultants, but there's not a final meeting scheduled. I think it will happen, and then they will say it's done.
Okay, you're not going to know when it is the final meeting.
No,
afterwards.
I don't think so. I haven't been told
Yeah.
by our people that's the case. No, I think we'll just be told it's done. But then we get this what's called a consent notice, and then the consent notice comes to us, and we need to agree it. We won't be holding back. I can tell you that. Nor New Calgon. Everyone's keen to make this happen. And then we need to sign it, and then we've got then more or less an exclusivity to ship under that consent notice until it becomes a registered product, which is about another year.
Is it just sort of bureaucratic waiting, or are there other hurdles that you have to jump over or may not jump over?
We're trying to really lock all this down as much as everyone is as well, but it really feels like it's basically once you get the consent notice, we really just got to get that finalized and signed, and then you're away.
And it sounds like a consent notice, maybe they would require you to have certain labeling on it, or some sort of superficial type things to
It could
clarify matters?
it'll be a full industry application consent notice. So how it's to be applied, how it's to be moved, how it's to be unpacked, how it's to be shipped, how it's to be
Okay.
all of it, the whole thing. And that's what we've documented all the way through with us. We've done everything from risk analysis of spraying on air conditioners through to particulate matter, through electron microscope analysis of the graphene and the coating. Like, it's the fullest example of due diligence in a coating, which we believe is safe, because we wouldn't do it without it if it wasn't safe, but also there's a lot of black paint in the world that's been sold already. And it's basically similar to that in terms of health and safety.
Have you gotten any indications from New Calgon on backlog or sort of anticipation out there in the market?
I think that they're extremely interested in launching this. They've certainly got people who are doing trials with them. If people want to do trials, it's in America, Canada, Mexico. That's the company to talk to. And they've certainly got that going on. We know they're anxious to get the EPA approval up. So just like us, so we're just doing as much as we can to make that happen, and so are they. We all want this to progress. The applications are enormous, and it's the biggest market for those applications in the world. So
it sounds like both the lubricant and XR coatings are really coming to market and at around the same time. Is that going to create logistics problems for you, or supply problems as you have enough graphene to fill that up? And I guess you are building out new capacity, but can you flesh that out a bit?
Yeah, so we're working through, and this is what I was saying, how we're basically the busiest we've ever been in 9 years, which sounds strange if you thought about it, really. But yeah, we're really focused on the scale-up planning and in detail. So we'll have a production plan, a filling plan, and then also a warehouse plan. And our warehouse actually will be the biggest issue, because the stock storage is going to be the biggest problem we'll have in terms of the volume and movements of pallets, and that's actually where we've been heavily focused on in the last month or so. You wouldn't have thought a nanotechnology business needs to do that, but that's what happens when you're a commercial operation. You need to shift pallets, and that's what we're planning on how to do it. So that's actually our first concern. And then once we get through the warehouse constraints and the warehouse planning and operations phase, which we hope to build teamworks to suppliers to help us with that, then we'll start to be graphene constrained, and then that's when we believe we'll have our new graphene plan on as well. But as and when we need to, we also hope to buy, use other graphenes in the market, because we've tried almost every graphene out there, because we make products with graphene. So where I spent 20 years in Shell, you would take your own oil, make that into fuel and LPG and diesel and lubricants and bitumen and road and asphalt, but you'd also use some others as well. So I think eventually when we can use that downstream upstream type approach, that's when the GMG would be fully formed. We'll be taking graphene when we need to, using that in our products, using or selling graphene out when we need to, or using our own. So that full kind of downstream upstream arbitrage is literally the design outcome that GMG is being built for.
Wow. So and I actually have a question here. How easy is it to interchange other manufacturers' graphene with G lubricant? And so that is actually a business opportunity you have, is to buy third-party graphene and use your mixing technology to
and the market and the branding and the patents. Like, the patents are going to come shortly, and once those patents are there and the APA approvals, and it's a very strong, compelling, challenging space for others. But we're happy to work with others to work with us. But their graphene just has to be the right graphene. That's the thing. And And working out if it's the right graphene is also not easy, but we've kind of worked that out as well.
All right. Is there going to be an American distributor or master distributor for the G lubricant?
Yeah, I think that's something we can, we're open to. We haven't identified that yet.
All right. Are there any updates to solar cell testing regarding TXR? Is the performance gain economic to any potential sales?
Solar cell, look, we really haven't pushed that further. You get about 5 to 6% extra a day and 10% peak of the day. And solar cells are made so cheap these days that it's best just to go buy another panel rather than
Yeah.
paint it without coating. So it's just one market. It's got an opportunity, but you take the heat out of the solar cells. But it's better just to go buy more panels. It's cheap these days to do that.
Okay. You stated that you are palletizing the XR coating. Also, any update on the AC or mini split demand market or contracts?
Yeah, look, we're really focused on the commercial space. That's the real sweet spot for thermal XR, where you put 100 liters and you know it creates a massive energy saving because it's a big air conditioning unit. As the market grows into and uses in more small kind of residential kit type split kind of market, that's a huge kind of opportunity because a lot of them are very inefficient and they're old and they're slightly corroded and people don't maintain them. So there's a huge opportunity for efficiency there. That's probably this new kit that we're going to be launching shortly. And that's done for the home handyman, do-it-yourselfer. And I think that's probably where it'll be. I think the labor cost for that will always be a bit too high for getting in certainly in developed countries for HVAC a licensed person. So yeah, that's what we're really trying to aim for with this one of the new products we're about to launch.
All right. And I guess to make like people understand, those industrial chillers, those aren't really products you order out of a catalog. Those are engineered. You need certain
Yeah.
specifications given the environment. So they're custom built per the application. And that's where you come in so it's kind of easier to put
Yeah.
in. Do I have that
The,
right?
yeah. So they're the guys who make them are generally the same guys who make the small residential split systems. Except they make 1 million of those a year, and then they make, say, 100 of the big ones. Maybe I'm
Yeah.
just making up numbers, but
Yeah.
that's and so we work with these guys because that's where you get massive impact. And then they're also going, oh, how can we use it over here? But that's going to take some time.
Okay. All right. Are G lubricant fuel savings proportional to horsepower gain? Could this result in discussions for higher power engines?
Look, we haven't done that work, but I would suggest that they are. I just can't say that they are. Yeah.
All right.
There's a lot of work to look at power gain to actually get that power gain differential accurately mapped. We've just focused on the fuel side, but generally, yeah, they swap out. Of course, that makes sense.
All right. Has there been a separator or selection of separator suppliers that will feed into the final battery design?
We hold two or three separators right now, and they're all good. And we've took us years to find those, and we're very happy with those. The final selection might be down to actually whether what the life or the application of the battery would be. So we might hold them all the way through. But yeah, we've got a very big separator supplier in one of them, but two actually. So that's not a concern. If I was talking to you a year and a half ago, that was a concern, but we're through that now. We're iterated that now.
Right. Has there been substantial thermal XR air conditioning coating sold in other countries that have already environmental approvals?
Well, Singapore government has it approved as a Singapore Green Building product, which is a substantial thing to be on that list as a 10% good rating. And that's because we've done years of work there. And We have good distributors. We have a number of very large companies that are marketing us to their customers, property managers and such things. And yeah, that's why we have so much work there. It's been rolled out to various different governments, government buildings, and private companies as well. And that'll continue to happen. The coatings, aftermarket is labor constrained. So the most important thing we need to have is to be able to sell paint to companies who can sell to companies who can actually coat it. So yeah, you do the labor when you have to, but we're not trying to scale a service industry here or a service business. So we need to access other people's labor, and that's one of the main main items we're working on. Certainly in Australia and America, that area is really important. The OEM market, as I said, I think will come. They need to really acknowledge that this is the future, and they need to accept a few things that they've been telling themselves isn't true. That they need to say something else is true now. That takes some time, and we've got the leaders in that space will pick it up and run with it, and they will absolutely demolish their competition in their space once they do that. I can tell you, but that will take some time, and then that will be the largest sales. Once you have some OEMs coming in, that'll absolutely be the largest sales for that. And then with the patent and the various different other ways that gets to market, I just can't see how someone's going to come along and really challenge us. But let's see.
All right. Just to clarify, someone is asking, your OTC ticker is GMGMF, correct?
Mm-hmm. That's it.
All right. Has GMG been trying to make a high temperature version of thermal XR?
So our thermal XR coating can easily go to 300 degrees Celsius, so 600 Fahrenheit or so, and we can often take it to 600 degrees. It's just how beautiful do you want it to look? That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, it will look beautiful probably until about 300 degrees, and after that, it might look a bit ratty, but it will still work and it will still do its main core job.
All right. How long until we could see the batteries in electric vehicles?
Yeah, so we are making a product that industry needs to understand, is what I think a lot of customers want first, that they want a fast charging car. And that is something that will take some time, and then it needs to be obviously, we're making in batches of 20 cells. So each scientific experiment, we're now doing 20. We used to do 5, now we're doing 20. And then eventually you're doing 100, and then you're doing 1,000. So you're just optimizing around 1,000 cells. And then you're doing 1 million batteries. And then I don't think you're going to get an automotive company until you're sitting making millions at a time in controlled ways. I wouldn't if I was them. So they'll continue. We know there's a lot of companies watching us in that space, but it'll be the ones who jump on board will get the first ones. So I think really you're focused on B2B, bus, truck, plane, train, and communications equipment. Imagine a walkie-talkie that charges in a few minutes rather than a couple of hours right now, and you got communications equipment down. So those are the applications that, and military defense. It's got a lot of interest there. So those applications will come, and then I think you'd then be able to run into some automotive applications after that.
All right. Is your graphene certified by the Graphene Council?
We would like to do that in the future. We haven't put it as a priority. We have effectively got it verified by Australia's Graphene Cooperative Research Centre at the University of Adelaide. Just in case you didn't know, University of Adelaide has 3 or 4 Nobel Prizes awarded to it. It's one of the best in the world. And it's verified it, and it's the graphene hub for Australia when it was operating years ago. We've got a massive report on that. So I don't need to know more than that. We don't need to know more than that. It's about the applications. And, it's just like asking Intel, does it get its silicon verified? by a university. But
Yeah.
I think at some point, look, I think it's not a big thing to do that, but it wouldn't change our customers' buying habits, I don't think.
Because your customers, you're not selling really the graphene itself. You're selling uh, solutions that have certain characteristics, and they don't really care if it's fairy dust in there, as long as it's
And
extracting the heat and it's EPA
yeah,
approved. Then that's what they care
and
about.
I can tell you that the best graphene for heat aren't the ones that someone
Yeah,
would say in a physics lab are the best graphene shapes. So what's what's the benefit really? If you're just a graphene producer, as in just, but that's what you do, then
yeah.
great. But we use our graphene in ways to make products, and products are things what people test, not our graphene.
Okay. Uh, when will you have to do another capital raise?
Look, I think we're clear for as I said, a couple of years. I think we're really focused on getting commercial ops, getting revenue in. We've got a low burn cost. We can make positive cash flow relatively easy, in inverted commas. Um, we're not like a kind of Silicon Valley startup $500 million burn a year type thing. We're 3 million US burn a year, with everything we're doing, producing, selling, developing, um, and a listed entity. So, we're a low burn cost. It'd be very easy to get to positive cash flow once we switch on these distributors that we're focusing on, which we'll talk about, in upcoming press releases. That will be, um, the focus. And then the next thing, whilst we're doing that, we aim to, as I said, do an uplisting in America. So there's no real targeted focus. We don't have a specific capital requirement to do what we need to get to a cash flow positive. We can do it now. It's just we've got to get sales out. We've got to get distribution. We've got people understand our products. We've got to, it's not like a shoe. People don't understand what graphene is genuinely. They need to know what it is. It's not like you buy a shoe off a web and you put it on, you wear it. They need to, have some understanding of it, and then be able to use it and then say, yeah, that's good, and recommend it to a friend. And then that's how it works. So that's why we're selling packets, single packets at a time on the web and on Amazon. And yeah, so that's our focus.
With your uplisting to a large US exchange, what is that kind of a 2026 event, or are you waiting for certain milestones to happen once we get, I don't know, so many sales or some milestones get hit, then we'll start the US listing
Yeah,
process?
it's a really interesting question, Martin, because there's about 4 or 5 things that you're looking for a listing. And, I think there's often listings that are called off, and you can see why. So as we've already gone through a listing, so we've got a tiny bit of experience there. And that is, you've got to have the market has got to be right for it. Investors have got to feel it's a good time. Your company's got to have a good time, a good feel for the timing of it, and you've got to have organizational capacity to list, because it's not simple,
No.
especially going to America. So, which is kind of like the highest level of scrutiny on, say, audited accounts and such things. So those things will measure across, those items as we find our way through over the next year, and we'll find the right time to list amongst all of that. But I don't think it's my view is it's a 2026 timeline. But once all of those things get considered, we'll put that together and announce.
All right. What is your relationship with the geek in Manchester?
We have talked to each other, but no, we don't work with each other.
Okay. Uh, a few people are interested in becoming distributors or reselling your product here. I will forward that information
Okay,
over to
sure.
you afterwards.
Yeah.
Any impact on the U.S. tariffs with your products being shipped in?
Look, they've just come in for our your de minimis number below 800, I think, isn't it? That's only a couple of weeks old, so it's a 10%. I haven't actually seen the numbers, but I do believe it's, it is happening. So yeah, that'll be a 10% tariff from Australia.
Okay. Have any fleets or large-scale users of G lubricant not achieved the intended or desired results from using the lubricant? Has there been any negative feedback?
So no, but we have yet to get the conclusive, big fleet test results back. The challenge with fleets is, which is interesting, is that we had one great fleet that adopted it and tested it, and then that truck actually had an accident, so they couldn't get this data. So these things happen. We've got other fleets that are testing. We'll get that data, and we have yet to get that data. We don't see that there'll be anything else but the same as what we get for all the other products testing, because we know how the graphene works now in the oil, and we know why it works. And so therefore we expect that to be what we see on all the other tests we've done. We're doing a lot more technical work to push that knowledge, that envelope, but it's founded on some really solid science now on why it works. So we have as much confidence in it working in that as I think yesterday someone emailed them their Corolla. So yeah.
All right. And final question here. And Craig, thank you for all the time you've allotted to us here. Is BIC a development contractor to GMG, or will they be involved in marketing the battery product as well?
Well, they're highly integrated, entity in the battery industry globally. Possibly, definitely the leading industry product battery development center in America, and probably one of them in the world as well. And so you have an automatic discussion with their people they work with once they're doing work with your batteries that are doing things that they've never seen before. So, so it is a development partner, but the spin-offs are that their connections are pretty broad and very deep throughout the ecosystem globally. And, that is part and parcel of why we work with them. They're a great team, and we expect to do a lot more work with them coming, just because of our ability to learn from them, and then also they're willing to learn about how our graphene works, and because that's important, as I said, to make it work in the end.
All right, Craig, thank you very much. We'll call it a wrap here. Any final comments before we hang it up here?
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Look, really look forward to the next year. It is going to be very exciting. The battery is looking better than it ever has, and the distribution of our products in small packs at palletized. I know it sounds like a small thing, but to take a R&D company into the final stages of palletized products where everything has to be allocated down to the smallest minutiae with barcodes is a big thing, and we're shortly going to come out of that, and that's what we're going to start doing announcements around, and we genuinely feel that will be driving our sales, and that's what we're very excited about. So thanks very much for your time today, Martin.
All right, and audience, thank you for all the questions, excellent questions. Thank you for listening for so long through everyone's busy day. Craig, have a great day. Happy morning to you, and hope you get good weather in the fall there, or in the springtime there.
Thank you.
All right, cheers.